Welcome to my nightmare.
What's up, boys and ghouls? In this episode of Cinematic Nightmares, we cover The Cell, which deals with some heavy themes, including childhood trauma, abuse, and disturbing imagery. If that kind of content is triggering or uncomfortable for you, please take care of yourself and maybe sit this one out. And I'll see you next time. Viewer discretion is advised. What's up, boys and ghouls? Welcome to another episode of Cinematic Nightmares. As always, I am your host, Mika G. Tonight, we are diving into one of the most surreal psychological horror films ever made, The Cell from 2000, directed by Tarsium Singh and starring Jennifer Lopez, Vincent Vaughn, and Vincent D'Onofrio. This movie is full-blown fever dream. It's horror, it's sci-fi, it's crime thriller, which we will discuss later, and it's everything mashed into one wild ride. Now, y'all already know I couldn't do this episode alone, because when do I ever do an episode like this alone? I had to bring in somebody who is a true lover of things psychological horror and also of visually stunning films. An award-winning video editor with serious chops in directing, cinematography, color grading, motion graphics, and even virtual production. She's worked across narrative, music videos, commercials, and anthologies. In projects like Monsters Inside My Head, 73 Minutes, and the LIFE or Life Anthologies. Basically, if it involves bringing wild visions to life on the screen, she's done it. Welcome to Cinematic Nightmares, Tiffany Warren.
Man, that was such a nice intro. You make me feel good about my work.
Try.
Appreciate that. Appreciate you.
How are you feeling?
In this moment, very, very good. Very good.
Good. So when you reached out to me and was like, can we please do The Cell? I was like, all right, I'm gonna just be 100. I have never watched this movie before because I had always heard not so great things about this movie. And actually, when I was talking to Blue from Blue's House Live, he was like, "Oh, you're doing that movie?" And I was like, "Yeah. What's wrong with it?" And he was like, "Ah, yeah, J-Lo." And I was like, "Okay." So I got a little scared.
Can't blame him for that.
But we're gonna discuss it because you chose it, and I ain't. You know me. If you choose a movie, I'm gonna watch it, and then we are totally going to discuss it. So let's start off with the setup. Catherine, played by J-Lo, is a child therapist using new technology that lets her literally step into the minds of her patients. When serial killer Carl Starger falls into a coma, Catherine is recruited to enter his mind to find his final victim, who's still alive and hidden somewhere in the real world. But inside his subconscious, she's plunged into a nightmare landscape built out of trauma, sadism, and fantasy. It's a part detective race against time story, part surreal horror trip. So, Tiffany, you've seen this movie multiple times. As you told me before we jumped on the recording. You've seen this movie multiple times, but can you take us back to the first time you saw this movie and why you enjoyed this movie so much to the point where you watch it multiple times?
So it's crazy to think of how long ago it came out, because it like where I've like how what I've been through, which this is actually kind of a part of why I'm so in love with this movie. I am such a different person, like a wildly different person than I even was a few years ago. But back then, especially, entirely different person. And I will say this: so I how do I put I because I don't ever want to diss anybody's work or anybody's career. I prefer Jennifer Lopez as an actress than I do as a singer. I feel
Mm,
that she's much more talented as an actress than she is as a singer, and I feel like she acted her ass off in that movie. Um, but back then, I think the reason I wanted to see it, if I can remember correctly, it was the trailers. Even
okay.
back then, like before I really got into like, because I was editing at that point. I have a visitor. Sorry.
It's fine.
He wants opinion
We
too.
love visitors.
But I remember seeing like it was just wild. I was like, "Oh, what's this?" It was cut together in a way that didn't make me feel like because I don't know if everyone can see this, but I can always tell when they take the good bits and put it in the trailer. And so when I see
Hmm.
that, I'm like, that's kind of how I felt about him, which is why I'm like, I don't know.
That's another discussion.
So yeah, I when I went to go see it, the main thing that really got me was, and I'll try to no spoilers yet, was Carl's childhood. And I, I've been through severe. I mean, like some of the stuff you see and hear he went through that it mirrored from my mother, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So in watching that, and it was kind of weird because I had a moment like that with the black phone too. So when it comes to childhood trauma, especially dealing with like violent abuse, it gets me. And that was the first hook. And then since Silence of the Lambs, I wanted to be Clarice Starling when I was little. Like I'm really into forensics. So it just had all of these different elements that I knew I would be interested in. And I mean, like for me, it had everything, you know. And it wasn't until seeing it at a 20th anniversary screening, or I guess now 25th, because it was here at Vidiots that I saw
Yeah.
it. And I realized, oh, not everybody feels that way because I was hearing people talking, and it's like some people thought it was boring, some people thought it was cheesy, which that hurt. I'm like, okay,
Oh.
I can see Peter's when Peter goes into that world, I could see that being kind of
Yeah.
cheesy. The graphics weren't that great, but come on, we're talking about like 25 years ago, right? It wasn't
Right.
exactly like Freddy's Dead. Those
Ah,
visuals.
that's another discussion.
But yeah, so that's what it was for me. It just had so many of the things that I love, and Tarsim is just he makes beautiful. Like I don't know if you've seen The Fall. That's his dramatic film.
Hmm.
Beautiful, beautiful. So that was what got me, without spoilers.
So for me, this was a first time watch again because I had always heard bad things about the cell. And also because Rotten Tomatoes definitely is like one of the worst movies on Rotten Tomatoes as well too. But I would have to say because I am a huge fan of psychological horror, like I definitely enjoyed The Cell because and I've never been through a childhood traumatic experience, but I do have I have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree when it comes to counseling. So seeing it on film, and it being broken down the way that they broke it down for this one, like she goes into his mind and you can see, you know, that uh we always talk about healing our inner child and
Hmm.
seeing his actual inner child, like
Yep.
still trying to protect him. You know what I'm saying? But also trying to also protecting Catherine as well in the movie because he knew that there was a part of this psyche that was deranged, and he was in hiding because that's normally what happens in people who have experienced childhood abuse is that their inner child goes into hiding and they and in mo- and not in every case is like is as extreme as in the cell, but there are those cases where people, you know, they start going into schizophrenia because
They're
they've
mind
created
fractures.
a you're right. They've created an alter ego to protect them. You know what I'm saying? So that their inner child does not get abused anymore. You
Mhm.
know, and but I mean, most people who experience childhood trauma create that person or that other person to protect them, to protect their inner child. In this case, his other inner person was deranged
Yeah.
and basically took his abuse out on his victims. But honestly, first watch, this was mind opening for me. I would definitely watch it again. So I could go back and catch all the things that I missed, the first time. Um, but it definitely had a sci-fi concept to it because of the whole entering somebody's mind that's some futuristic stuff, right?
One of those jacket suits.
But also the horror visuals in this movie is crazy. It's crazy. So talking about the visuals, we do got to talk about the visuals of the cell because as I said off camera, Tiffany, I see why you chose this movie because this movie is visually stunning. Like
Yeah.
I don't see why anybody would think this movie is boring unless you just like one of those people that just don't like, I guess, art type films because this does have a art house type feel to it.
Yeah.
But tell me what your thoughts are about the visuals of this film.
Those sets and even how so the fun and cool thing to me is it starts out kind of seemingly generic and boring-ish with the exception of this sci-fi concept of, oh, we're going in his brain. So if
Right.
people are not really wowed by the first, like that opening sequence with the desert, and like that was practical. There's no CG. They didn't have drones, like all of that shit. It's just like it. Am my language?
Yes, you can cuss. Yes, it's fine.
Am my
It's fine.
language? See what I mean? Brain damage. I've been losing words all week. I'm like, the food. Yes, they need food.
Food.
The stuff. Like I saw a meme that said something about what do you call edibles that don't have weed in it, and somebody had responded, "Bitch, you mean food?" But yeah, that was me this week.
I love it.
But yeah, so it's like when you get past that, it's like just this procedural stuff. It's the introduction of the case and all that, and it actually kind of reminds me of Seven with the feel of how it was shot and how they go into it. I love the movement of colors in the first portion of it, and so when she goes into Carl's mind the first time, one of my most favorite things is that there's like this big expansive space in this little bitty box that has the throne room where he is. Like I'm getting chills thinking about it. It's this little
Yes.
bitty box, and you're like, and then you're in it, and it's this huge room, and he's sitting on his throne like, oh, he did such an amazing job. But he's sitting on his throne in that pose that I feel like if it wasn't the right person, it would look kind of cheesy. But he
Right.
looks like this terrifying king, this dark emperor, And when he starts coming towards her and the fucking his
Hey,
robe,
Rome. Yes.
and the sound design, like when the bodybuilder drops her and it's like
Oh,
that, and she landed on her knee, like I felt that. I still feel it every time I watch it. So it's like he's coming down and it's like, all towering over her and shit, and then he's like,
Where you come from?
like
and she was like,
that.
nah.
Yeah, she had her back to him the whole time too. Like
You're right.
I can feel that. I'm like, because that's the kind of person I am. When I'm scared, I'm like, no. I try to see I was like, how long can I sit with this? It's not happening. And then
Right.
he's in her face. So it's just that whole thing. But when she's in his mind, all of those sets, when she's seeing the victims, when she meets little Carl, it's like all of that. You see the grime, the grunge, which that kind of reminds me of the 13 Ghosts remake. It's like the way I love that those environments.
Yeah.
So the set design just really got me, and some of those practical effects, like when the clock is ticking, and all those blades drop down on the
On
horse.
the horse. Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel almost like knowing what I know about filmmaking, it makes me feel like a little kid. Like I would have loved to have been on that set working with that team. It's, oh my God. So that's what gets me. Is just looking at all of that and the editing. Like
Yeah.
me being kind of morbid. It's like when oh god, I forgot her name for a minute. She's not Julia. Julia's the victim.
Catherine.
Jennifer Lopez's character,
Catherine.
Catherine. Yes. When Catherine is at home decompressing and she's with her cat, and she's like, "Do you want some milk?" And then they show him bringing the body up out of the milk. I'm like, "Oh, that's sick," and kind of funny because it's sick, but it's, oh my god, that's messed up. But yeah, it's just, there's so much, and I that's why I recommend to people, if you like those kind of things, just watch it over and over because you'll always find something new, and it's just incredible. I don't know that my brain can work like that, but
Yeah.
it's incredible.
I have to say that by the part you could the difference between Catherine's brain and his brain,
Mm-hmm.
because when we're in his brain, it's dark, it's grimy, it's it almost gives you the it, because you're just
Yep.
like, oh, I don't want to touch nothing in here,
Yep.
but
We are
then
not
when
sitting
we and but when we transfer over to her brain, it's beautiful. You know what I'm saying? Like,
down.
she's in this room looking like, what I'm saying, like a painting. And she's just
Mhm.
sitting, she's standing there, and the little boy's like, he's like, "Can I stay here with you?" And I was like, "I want to stay here
Yeah.
with you too."
Mhm.
But that scene was visually stunning because she was, J Lo was glowing,
Mhm.
in that scene, and the way they had the lighting hitting off of her in the right places to create that glow behind her, to get that sense of a safe place.
Yeah.
She is a safe place for, and that and I understand, like, that part of it is that you want it to feel safe in her head, and the only way you can make somebody feel safe is you have to make the lighting glow. You have to bring that peace, right? Like, there was one part where she's talking to the boy, and like the little
The gold
vines and stuff
gorgeous.
was, yeah, the gold was coming. I was like, I don't know what's happening, but I feel at peace. I feel good. I feel like this is where I'm supposed to be,
Yeah.
and I just, but not just, we get the change when
Yeah.
King Carl shows up. It
Yep.
it it gets dark. It gets
The
grimy
blood
again.
starts
It feels
creeping
like
in.
the
Yep.
ick. Yeah, it feels like the ick again. And you're like,
It's
no, no, you're
scene.
not supposed to be here, good sir.
Yeah.
But
I think that was the hardest thing for me, was seeing little Carl, because I felt like I just wanted to hold him and love him and
yes,
protect him. And
yeah,
the thing too, for me being a lesbian, I don't know necessarily that he would have been queer,
yeah.
because he could have just been sensitive, but
Mhm.
that's how his stepdad was abusing him and how his mother kind of treated him. But that's the thing. It's like, I heard a quote today, or not today, this week, where this guy was saying that he believed that queerness is like a safety net, because it allows people, it's so expansive. It allows people to be who they are without feeling like they have to have a rigid defining label. And when he first
Yeah.
said that, I was kind of like, I don't know. I was like, no, what, he's right though, because you can be whoever you are without having to think of, well, you're masculine, you're feminine, you're too masculine, you're too feminine, you should be, you know what I mean? So it was interesting to think about that, and I think about that all the time, because I used to be a daycare teacher for a minute, and I took some early childhood development courses, and so having been a child, I have some experience with children. It's always funny when
Right.
people are like, "You don't have kids, what do you know?" I'm like, "Bitch, I was a child.
Right. I
You
was a
were a
kid. What are
child
you
too.
talking
Like,
about?
I have some experience,
I know how to be a kid.
But it's one of those things where you learn that children are supposed to be open. You're supposed to, they should be open, and we are their guardians and protectors. We're not necessarily meant to tell them this is what you need to be. And that's what
Right.
tends to fuck up a lot of kids, is like, you're supposed to be this, but that's not who they are. So I always wonder that. I'm like, was like, what would Carl, or who would Carl have been if he hadn't, been abused and
Free.
neglected and,
He'd,
brutalized the way he was.
he'd have been free, living his best life. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? He'd have grew up with an awesome, amazing childhood, and never became a serial killer. Like,
Yeah.
never. But I will say this. From here on out, we're in spoiler territory because we're about to dive into this cast and into these performances, because Vince Vaughn. That's all I'm gonna say. Vince Vaughn.
Oh god.
Yep. So yeah, well, I mean, we already talking about him, so let's talk about Vince Vaughn. Vince Vaughn plays FBI agent Novak. It's wild kind of seeing him and in a serious role because we just know him so much from being a comedian. Although this is not his first serious role, he did play Norman Bates in the Psycho remake as well too.
Yeah.
So but in the beginning, he is actually very convincing as an FBI agent. But then once he gets into Carl's mind, it's a little different. Like, but I didn't have a problem with Vince Vaughn being an FBI agent. Uh him and the scenes with him and J Lo. Actually, there's that one scene with him and J Lo, like at the end, where he's like, "Oh, like first of all, why did she show up?" She was like, "Oh, I just came to say hello and goodbye," and I'm like,
It almost felt like
"It's a phone call."
it felt like they were trying to force a romance narrative, but like in a quick instant, but it just didn't work because it was weird, you know? I don't know if maybe they didn't really like each other offset. Who knows?
I thought I was the only one that thought that scene was awkward because they were
I've
just kind
always
of
thought
standing there, and he's like, okay, well, and she was like, okay, and then he
it.
goes
Like,
in for the handshake. Right, he goes in for the handshake, and she hugs him, and and the look on his face is like, oh, I didn't know we was hugging.
yeah,
What did you think of Vince Vaughn as FBI agent Novak?
so the funny thing is, like I said, a totally different person than I was back then. Back then, I thought he was great. I didn't, like with the exception of that end scene, I did think that was weird. I'm like, and I did kind of feel like throughout, like once he ends up there in Carl's mind to go save her. Why do I keep Catherine when he goes back to save Catherine? It's like I think they wanted there to be some kind of romantic, but it it was that's the main thing. So like
Yeah.
beyond that, going back and watching the anniversary at Vidiots with this crowd of at least two different generations that are younger than me,
Yeah.
and they they kept laughing like the whole time, and they would laugh harder when he was on the screen, and I'm like thinking about it, I'm like, okay, yeah, I get it, I see it, I did
Yeah.
back then, I see it. I don't know. I don't know if he thought I don't know. I don't think that it was so bad that it ruins it, but I
Right.
guess that audience kind of thought that. But it's not not anything I would rant or rave about. But he was in it. He did it.
Agreed.
I
Agreed.
actually liked the other detective better, the other agent better, and I kind of wish that he would have been because he felt more believable. But who knows?
Uh, you're talking about Gordon, FBI agent Gordon,
It was like
which was
what?
played by Jake Weber. Yeah. I like okay, so there was a scene where he fell asleep or whatever, and then Vince Vaughn and J Lo's character, Catherine and Novak go outside and they're talking, and he like low key convinces her like, "Hey, get your ass back in there." Like,
Mhm.
I understand you went through a terrifying experience, but I'm gonna need you to get. Let me. He said it in a nice way, but I feel like if Gordon was out there, we know Gordon comes outside and he's like, what are y'all talking about? And he's like, oh yeah, nothing. And that's like you were sleeping. Like at that point, as Gordon, I'm fighting everybody. Like what you're not gonna do is keep information from me. We're not doing this. We're not doing this right now. But I thought Vince Vaughn I thought he was good as a FBI agent. I could see why people were laughing because they're so used to seeing the comedic side of Vince Vaughn. He has tried multiple times to be like not the funny guy. And it's like, dude, you're the funny guy. Like, even like in the movie Freaky, I don't know if you've ever seen Freaky,
I did.
but
That
he
was
plays a
actually
serial
hilarious.
killer in that one. Yeah, I thought Freaky was good too. He plays a serial killer, and you're like, I can totally see Vince Vaughn being a serial killer, but he also was Norman Bates.
Yeah.
Wasn't great. He wasn't great as Norman
I didn't like that iteration of it at all, to be honest. But you know, eh, remakes, man.
So, uh, gotta love them. So let's move on to J Lo because, like I said in the beginning, so many people had so many terrible things to say about her in this movie. So, J Lo as Catherine, she people doubted her back then, and that's basically it. But I felt like she brought some real empathy and
Mhm.
warmth to the role. Like I truly believed her as a psychologist, as a child psychologist,
Mhm.
and without her grounding it, this movie could have just been a grotesque imagery without any heart. And I feel like J Lo brought the other side of it, like, you could tell, like, she really cared. Like, she wasn't in there like, "Hey, I'm just trying to get the information." Like, she wasn't in there just to do that. Like, or her character wasn't in there just to do that. Even though the FBI agent was like, "Hey, I need you to get in there and get the information because this girl's gonna die," you know? But what did you think of J-Lo's performance in this movie?
I mean,
Now that you've rewatched it again.
that's the thing is like I've always thought she was a better. I always prefer her acting better than I do her singing, and it's like one of the things that I think is really important about her journey is that she has that love for children and her work and wanting to help, and that is what she's more focused on. And I think a part of it too is that she's projecting from the little boy, was Edward, right? the
Yes,
main the main
yes.
kid.
Yes.
So she can't help him. She feels helpless, like she's trying to help him. They don't think she's helping him. She's putting, so now she has this other opportunity. And I think that's what made her latch on to Carl, is because she's thinking, I can save him, you know?
Yeah.
And on top of that, it's amazing to think, because it's weird for me because part of my healing journey was starting with learning how to heal, or not heal, but recover from codependence. So when I started working on boundaries and stuff like that, it's like you don't realize how you get so lost in other people's shit because you don't have boundaries, and you don't realize how often you leave yourself open to being hurt. You don't realize how deeply you can be hurt because you don't have boundaries. And it's as simple as, it's not saying like you don't care, it's not saying that you don't want to have these connections or whatnot. It's just knowing who you're around and how they can be, you know. That's something I'm going through with my mom right now. But with her, she's just open. And you have these moments like there's the first where Carl almost gets her, right?
Yeah.
Like Emperor Carl, right? He almost gets her, and then she pulls herself out. She's like, nope, this isn't working, this isn't happening. And then the
I'll
second time,
pass.
and then the second time when she has little Carl, and it's like, or not little Carl, it's the softer version of Carl. I guess it's him. He's deranged still, but he's vulnerable with her before he
Yes.
becomes the Dark Emperor. So
Yes.
she's seeing little Carl in him. So she's like, what happened to you? Please tell me. And when she sees him backing, that scene where he's in the tub cleaning that body, and he's backing up into the dark, and she's not picking up on that. She's just like, But when he starts disappearing, she's like, oh, let me get focused on the job. Where's Julia? Where's Julia? And then he comes back as the Dark Emperor, and now she's fucked, because
Yeah.
she's just so without boundaries, and then he puts that collar on her, and that's this whole, that's the one thing that I feel, looking back on it, that I kind of wish it could have been written a little bit differently, but I understand why they wrote it the way they did, because the man goes in to save her, because she's not
Yes.
capable of saving herself, because she's just so in this, and I understand why it was written that way. I mean, it still worked, but my little, I'm like, if I would have written it, just because I feel that we all do. We when we write, we're working out our stuff,
Yeah.
So, um, but she was, bringing it back to the main point. I thought she was great and incredible. And you're right. Like if she hadn't been as good as she was, the movie I think could have not been so great. It would have had visuals, like the amazing visuals, but you wouldn't, at least for me, because I always have to feel connected to a character or interested in characters. Like that's why I have a hard time with movies when the character, like, they're just terrible people. you know,
Right.
and I get that's a thing, and I get that people like that, but I can't. I have a hard time watching movies where it's like you got five characters and they're all assholes. I'm like, can you just kill them already?
Right.
Can I focus on that maybe? Because I can't deal with this.
I'm rooting for the killer at this point.
Exactly. Exactly. So she's definitely one of the best parts in her performance. So I dig that.
So to go back to what you said, I didn't even pick up on what you just said until you said it. Y'all sent a man in there to go save her. You know, because and it's not the fact that she couldn't have saved herself because she probably could have, but he sent a man in to go save her. And I'm saying that I'm not bashing men at all. I'm not. But I do remember the other doctor was like, I can go in. And it was a woman. And they
Mhm.
was like, nah, we gonna send
Mhm.
him instead. And it's
Mhm.
like, you're gonna send in the one person that doesn't know how this equipment
Yep,
works,
exactly.
doesn't understand what he's about to step into. You're
Mhm.
gonna send him, the
Yep.
most unqualified person, to go in.
Mhm.
Okay. I mean, it's your movie. But now that you said that, now I'm just like,
And
ugh.
thinking on the writing parts of that again, like had I written it, I think and thinking that there might have been some difference, like so sending the man in to save her, if there's that romantic narrative, if they're like that kind of, I still think it's
Yeah.
toxic, but but it's that's how people are. It's
See,
like,
I didn't even get the romantic vibes from them. And
but
when
I
did
think
she
that's what
have
they were.
time to when did she have time to tell him about the car accident? Like, what?
No, she. So remember, the white male doctor. I can't remember his name.
Oh, Henry.
Henry, yes, yeah, Henry. So remember, Henry, he says you read her file, so that's probably where he found out about the car accident. But had I written, my difference would have been sending the lady doctor in, and I think that would have made
Because
it.
she knows her better than anybody else in that room. I mean,
And
also the other male doctor as well too, but still, the lady doctor knew her better.
I hate that I can't remember names because she's actually I love that actress actually.
But
Um,
you know me, she was Dr. Miriam Kent.
there you go, Dr. Kent. So yeah, that could have been like a wholly different vibe. But
Yeah,
I think what they were trying to go with was you send the guy in that they're supposed to be, and but I think that there may have been, knowing personalities, knowing what I've heard about personalities, maybe there wasn't, that's why they couldn't make the romantic narrative work because
right.
I mean, I don't know, just I shouldn't be speculating like that, but just my theorizing.
But
But
I also know why they also sent him in. Well, writing wise, why they sent him in is because he was the one that able to find the clues
oh yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
where the girl was located
Right.
in the real world. Because if you had sent the lady doctor in, she wouldn't or Dr. Kent. If you had not sent Dr. Kent in,
She would
she wouldn't have picked up on any of the clues. So I could like writing wise, I see why they sent, Novak in. Honestly, I wish they would have sent Gordon in because
have.
I felt like there was a more dynamic between Gordon and Catherine versus Novak and
I actually
with
kind of
Catherine.
felt like he might have been crushing on her a little bit, to be honest.
I think he was. Honestly, I think he was. I think he was too. But so let's talk about Vincent D'Onofrio as Carl. Honestly, okay. So a lot of y'all may know him from Law and Order. He's great.
Men in Black.
You won't even recognize him in this movie, like at all. Like I would say, like the makeup effects for them creating Carl, not just regular Carl, but also King Carl as well too. Emperor Carl. Listen, it's nightmare fuel. He he can shift between characters like it's nothing
Mhm.
and terrifying and it's unsettling. Like
Very.
we do get glimpses of his humanity. Like you said, he at one point he's really soft with Catherine. Catherine, he's like, like, I this was my this is my first time. I messed up. I it was so much, so much blood, and I just knew I messed up. And then, like you said, starts to back away into the darkness, and that's when he flips into his sadism,
Yeah.
and and then he just becomes, like, unhinged. He is great
Yeah.
as a serial killer. Surprisingly, he ended up becoming a cop.
Well, now I think he's no, he's not the Penguin. He's on one of those comic shows, or at least he was.
He's
Uh,
the, oh my god, I know exactly he's Kingpin.
there you go. Yeah, I was like, I know he's a main bad guy and he's big and bald, but I
Yeah,
don't remember.
Kingpin.
Daredevil, right? I think that's
Yeah.
Daredevil.
Shout out to Dre and Blue from Blurred AF for always talking comics and making me forcing me to notice stuff. What did you think of Vincent as Carl?
I'm not joking when I say he should have won an Oscar. Actually, I feel like that film actually could have had like costume design, set design, makeup, not so much special effects. But then again, back then, I think it was pretty good for what it was. But he's phenomenal, and that's the thing is it's not just loving little Carl, but when he has those vulnerable, softer parts, that's what makes it even harder,
Mhm.
because you know, you try when I've tried having conversations with people about this movie and I talk about my compassion for him as an adult. Yes, I know he's a deranged serial killer, but one, having compassion doesn't necessarily mean that you're forgiving and you're saying, "Oh, it's okay." I mean, I had a messed up childhood too. I didn't become Carl Starger.
Exactly.
But that's the thing. It's like I recognize that had he had a different life, it would have been less likely that he would have became that horrific. And I almost feel that there are times the way it's presented is that he struggles. He doesn't necessarily want to be or do that, but
Right.
that's he has moments where he kind of snaps and it's just like that's who he becomes, so he leans into it. Um but he was just phenomenal. And you know I've always heard people talk about how different actors and dancers, especially, they have this, they're aware of their bodies. And I never fully understood that when I was younger. But when I watch him perform in that role, I'm like, oh, there you go. Because it's like I mean, he's a big dude. He is like, I think
Yes.
he's like 6'5" or maybe even taller, but he is a tall, thick dude.
Yeah.
And he doesn't seem goofy or awkward. It's like he's fucking scary when he's in that Dark Emperor mode. But when
Yes.
he's himself, when he's in everyday life, as big and imposing as he is, he's very mousy. You know, like when he's going to the silo to get retrieve the first body, and it's like he's very mousy. So he did such an amazing job with that role. And yeah, he should have gotten an Oscar. Him and from Hereditary, those are the two. The mom from Hereditary, I know her name.
Oh, Tony Collette?
Those are my, because I'm mad that Angela Bassett didn't get her Oscar for What's Love. So that's how I feel with these two, because I'm like, they should have gotten Oscars. These were incredible performances.
Yeah.
But but
So,
yeah, so
surprisingly, this movie was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Makeup and Hairstyling,
but they
but
didn't.
it did not win the Academy Award for that, but it did get nominated. But I totally agree. He should have been nominated for an Academy Award for this depiction of Carl. You can tell he embodied this role. In every scene that he's in, he's dominating the scene. He ain't even got to speak. He's just dominating the scene. Like the whole scene where he's sitting up there on his throne and his robe is, flowing behind him. I was just like,
Yeah.
so do I turn the movie off now? 'Cause I'm
And
tempted.
I love this is my sadistic humor, my twisted humor, when he gets a hold of Peter
Oh
and
yeah,
he's in that goal. He's like, hee, 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 and he's
yeah,
like doing, if mercy oats and does the oats, and he's like,
yeah,
he's not real, he's not
yeah. Honestly, I think I want to say like Nicolas Cage because I mean it reminded me of Long Legs. Like,
real.
because I've seen Long Legs, and I think that Nicolas Cage probably watched The Cell, because he definitely kind of embodied that, like the mocking thing, like like, oh, you're not gonna know, you're gonna do it like that.
I can see
Oh,
that.
ugh. Both are creepy. Both deserve Academy Award nominations at least. But okay, so we're gonna move on to the themes and the meaning. So basically, even though the cell is visually stunning, the overall theme in this one is trauma. And not just any trauma. We're talking childhood trauma. And as you mentioned that, you've experienced childhood trauma as well too. In Carl's case, he's abused as a child, but that shapes his entire nightmare landscape when it comes to his inner psyche. And Catherine is kind of forced to confront whether she can save an innocent inner child or whether she has to destroy the monster he became, not realizing that the two are linked together.
Yeah.
This movie, when it comes to this theme, is so heavy. It's a heavy watch. And so to hear that you had people in the theater laughing at,
It was
laughing
weird.
during the movie, I didn't laugh at all during this movie. I don't care what Vince Vaughn did in this movie. Like, this movie is so heavy and it makes you ask the question, how much of a killer is born evil and how much of it is created by what we endure?
I will be. I've always wondered about nature versus nurture because so you mentioned his landscape, his mind space being shaped by his trauma. And the thing is, for like all through my childhood up until maybe my mid 20s, I remember all of my dreams. I remembered at this point, I don't remember most of, I don't even fucking remember yesterday. But when I would remember those dreams, they were nightmares. Most of my dreams were nightmares growing up. I had night terrors. Um, and so that's the other thing that was so fascinating about seeing how, so I wonder about Tarsim and the visual effects team and the production design. I'm curious about where they drew a lot of this inspiration from. But yeah, so it's like with, oh man, I lost my train of thought. It totally, I'm sorry. What was
Trauma.
the last?
No, you're fine. You're fine. You're fine. Like I said, and
Oh, nature versus nurture.
yes,
Sorry,
yes.
that's what it was.
Like, are we born natural killers or are we a product of what we endure? Like
And I think
the life that we endure.
yeah, I think it's 50-50. And I know neuroscience is actually looking at epigenetics, and they're saying that there are genetic markers that can potentially create a serial killer, depending on whether they're triggered or not. And it
Right.
was really weird listening to this guy who is one of the pioneers of that. He's a neuroscientist and apparently technically a sociopath. And it was when you hear him talking in this one particular interview, he started out sounding like anybody else, but then when he starts talking about, because he used his brain as a control brain, that scan, and he had Jeffrey Dahmer's and Richard Ramirez's scans. And so his assistant comes back and tells him, "Hey, I think there was a mix-up because we have 3 serial killer brains." And he was like, "Huh." So when he went and looked at the sample, that's how he learned that he technically has the mind of a serial killer. And when he goes talking from that point on in the interview, I'm like, "Oh, you are a fucking sociopath," because he's literally like, he sounds like a certain person that's in DC. He's like, "I had the best childhood and I had such a loving family and I was such a great child. It was so bizarre." And I'm like, "Oh." But he was basically saying that because he didn't really experience any trauma, he wasn't abused, he wasn't neglected, because that's a lot of things. That's another thing too I feel a lot of people don't recognize, is that trauma doesn't have to be you're beaten up and locked in a closet. It's literally you go to show your parents your favorite drawing and you work really hard on it and nobody cares. That happens all of your childhood. That's trauma.
That is trauma.
And it will shape personalities. But yeah, I think it's 50-50, and that's part of why I tend to have a little more open mind and compassion when I think about people that do fucked up shit. Like I don't necessarily look at them and say, oh well, they shouldn't be locked up. They shouldn't be. Well, I'm against the death penalty, but I wouldn't say they shouldn't be locked up. You keep people safe, but I'm
Yeah.
not going to call them a monster. I'll say that what they did was brutal and monstrous, but I'm not going to call them a monster because in a way it's something that there are elements that they couldn't help, and a lot of the times they just didn't get what they needed to not become what they became.
Right.
That's my perspective on it, I guess. But
I mean that's the perfect way to explain that. Like because uh in the case of like Dahmer was not physically abused.
it was
He just grew up in a neglectful home. He grew up with, a mother that abandoned him, took his younger sibling instead of taking him. His father was his father realized that early on that his son was different, right?
Yeah.
So he tried to curve him and try to get him to do other things. But, you know, people don't understand. A mother's love is strong.
Yeah.
And when she is neglectful of her child, that hurts because your mother is the first person to hold you when you're born. Mother she's supposed to be everything. So when she's not, a lot of a lot of uh a lot of serial killers have mother issues. Their mothers hated them, their mothers neglected them, their mothers didn't show them love. And it's not the fact that their fathers can't do the same thing. It's just your mom is supposed to be your uncle.
It's a different bond.
Yeah, exactly. So in Carl's case, there was that part where his dad was like, "That's not your mom. That's not your mom. That's not your mom." She abandoned him, like she left him.
Yeah.
And then his father goes on to basically abuse him because he probably felt betrayed by Carl's mother because she left him. You know,
Mm-hmm.
um, this movie is heavy. I would definitely say that. It's just, it's just but Catherine comes in the of a mother,
Yeah.
and it ultimately comes from weakness, like you said earlier. It becomes her weakness. She's trying to save Carl. She's like, "Oh, well, tell me about what happened." And Carl's like, "You know what?
Nah, I don't trust
No,
you.
I'm not gonna do that. I'm
I
gonna
don't
let you
trust
holler at my homeboy real quick."
you.
Again, it's that darker side of him
Protect them.
protecting him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not protecting the inner child anymore. Now I'm protecting Carl,
Mm-hmm.
the adult Carl,
Yeah.
because you know it's it there is a danger in trying to heal someone who thrives on destruction.
Yep.
And for Catherine, it almost cost her her life because she was
Yeah.
about to be trapped in Carl's mind forever.
Yep. Yes.
And if they didn't send Novak in there to go rescue her, she probably would have just ended up in Carl's brain
Oh
forever
God, I
because
didn't
they
want to
wouldn't
see
be able to
that
go get her.
happen. Yeah.
Because the more she sat in there, the more she thought that what she was experiencing was real life.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I mean, this movie is heavy. When it comes to trauma, there are some scenes in here where they do show some childhood abuse. Um, we're watching from the same closet that J Lo is watching from, which is from the outside looking in. And I feel like that's how most psychologists, if psychologists could get in your head, that's what they would go look for. They would go, okay, let me go into your past and figure out what made you do or what makes you tick, that type of thing. But let's go into a lighter note because it just got real dark and heavy for a minute. All right, so I don't believe this, but there is a debate on whether The Cell is a horror or a psychological horror or a psychological thriller. to say for me, it's a horror. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I would say it's a horror. Like, even though there is that crime, mystery, FBI, piece of it, like the rest of it is a nightmare. What are your thoughts?
I feel like when it comes to those debates, because of course the most famous one is with Silence of the Lambs. And I think I can kind of understand that one, but it's still, there's like I feel like there has to be this ratio of like when we were talking about Seven, how much of the procedural is there, how much of the gore is there, what is the tone, you know? And I think that's the thing with The Cell, is that the tone shifts. I think he does a good job at shifting the tone, but the tone shifts. But I mean, when you are in the horror, you are in the horror. So it's like there is no question about it. With Silence of the Lambs, it's a steady tone, and to me, that tone is horror. It's definitely got like the thriller vibes, but it's I'm always watching that movie with the music, the lighting, the way the camera moves. It's like I'm feeling like there's always gonna be something that comes out and gets me. That's
Yeah.
kind of how I felt watching it. I shouldn't have watched that when I was 9, but but that's one of those things. Shit, I shouldn't have watched Nightmare on Elm Street when I was 4, but here we are.
Here we are.
But that's the thing, is I definitely I was shocked when you told me that. I'm like, who the hell?
Thanks, Mom.
It's like there is no mistaking that movie is like a psychological horror, but okay. Man, I still can't get over that. I'm gonna be thinking about that for the longest. Like, what the hell? Psychological? No, horror. It's definitely horror.
Yeah. Yeah. So okay, so we already mentioned that it was released 25 years ago. And it was like that it was, well, back in 2000, it was released during that weird in between moment in horror, because we had the slasher revival with Scream that was starting to fade, and Saw had not dropped yet. But this movie stood out to you. Well, obviously it stood out to me too, but I just never got around to watching it because it didn't look like all of the other horror movies.
Yeah.
And I mentioned earlier that the visuals are so stunning. It does give off art house horror, you know what I'm saying? Because at one point they do focus on the visuals of this movie. So when you look back, did you think The Cell was ahead of its time when it came to horror?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Because everything else had its very niche, like, so because I was thinking about kind of like the Dark Castle types, because you had you had 13 Goats, you had the Haunting, like those remakes and whatnot,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
they went together, they felt. And then you had Scream, so everything felt like it had its place, but The Cell didn't. And
Yes.
I was so excited for it, because, and I've even to this day, I prefer things that are different, and I hate now that it's called elevated horror. I don't know it. I don't like the term because it feels pretentious, and it's like it's not elevated. It's just different.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
funny thing that a lot of people I've talked to, like because I used to do conventions a lot when I was in my 20s, and I actually was even a guest a couple of times at different cons. And when you talk to other horror fans that like Nightmare on Elm Street, when we talk about the first Nightmare on Elm Street, and I talk about how psychological it is, it's this perfect melding of like complete slasher, but when you really look at it, there are some deep psychological themes, and a lot of them didn't know that Wes Craven had that background.
Yes.
So it's like it's the perfect film to me, because when you think about marketing and how studios tend to look at things, you have something that on its in its face, it's brutal, bloody slasher. But for people that, if they can stomach that and they can get past that, there are these really, really intricate, deep themes that can really stick with you. So with The Cell, it was more of I don't know if nuanced is the right word, but it had more of an art house way of going about that. But I almost feel they're in similar, because while it's not necessarily slasher, the stuff that's there, like, so you mentioned watching from the closet, that scene, every time I think about it, and when I, even now when I watch it, I almost get sick to my stomach because you don't see what's happening to little Carl, but you hear it.
Hear it. Yes.
And that just, it, because it reminds me of my childhood. And I've heard people saying that, it's a lot, it's worse when you don't show it because people's minds play,
Yeah. Yeah.
So while, yeah, you're not seeing a woman being slashed and dragged up the ceiling and, all the fucking blood gushing everywhere,
Right.
I still kind of put them right next to each other because they have the same effect, you know. So, but it definitely would say it was ahead of its time, and I think that's kind of why it might not have done so well. If I, you know what, I wonder. No, I don't. I was like, I might be okay with a remake, like, because I'm now, that's where I'm okay with thinking about remakes, because you do have generations that hadn't seen it, that haven't experienced it, and
Mhm.
from that audience, I'm like, okay, yeah, I guess this could be something that could use a refresh, and have it in a way that modern, I guess, audiences might appreciate it. But I don't know, man. Everything is so weird now.
Like I said, I think in your case, I think the reason why people didn't appreciate it is because Vince Vaughn
The
has
comedy
become
background.
so he's a comedy background
The
now.
Wedding Crashers guy.
Yeah, right.
That's a
So
job
like,
well done.
people see Vince Vaughn and they're just like automatically like, oh, it's gonna be comedy,
They can't
and
take it seriously.
no, this is literally a psychological horror, and Vince Vaughn was actually playing a serious role, at this point. Do you think the cell holds up when compared to today's psychological horror movies like Hereditary?
I think so. I think so. When I was rewatching, I don't know. I used to have the DVD. I lost that along with some other things, but I was watching it through Amazon streaming on Prime, and I'm like, this looks like it's the original, the original.
Yeah.
Like it says it's high HD. I'm like, no, this ain't HD. This is the shit that came out back then. I don't know if there is a digitally remastered version, because the version that I saw at Vidiot's, it was the one of the original film. So I feel like if it got that remastered, it would, because a lot of people are all about visuals and everything looking clear. Maybe if they could somehow help with the graphics, I don't know. But outside of that, I feel like with story tone, everything else that goes on, I feel like it stands up. But I'm also completely biased because I love the film. It's literally one of my top 3 favorite horror films. So
Nice. I again, this is my first time watching it, and I can truly say that it does hold up. Again, I it's a movie that I would definitely watch again, just so I can catch all the stuff that I missed before. It's almost like right up there, like, I have my different versions of where my top 5 I like top 5, like, based on genre. So, like, if I was watching Silence of the Lambs, 7, the Cell would be next on the list. Like, it's definitely top 3 for me, when it comes to those type of movies, but that have to deal with serial killers and crime, but still is a horror, because there's nothing like horror than a serial killer who and then you're going into their brain, which is
and then he becomes a real monster.
then it becomes yeah, I was gonna say then he becomes a real monster.
You have a human
So
monster, and then the real kukui. So it's like you got both of them, 2 versions.
right. So I definitely think that it can hold its own. I truly feel like anybody that saw this movie back then and completely like trashed it, go rewatch it.
Yeah.
Like go rewatch it today. Like and actually focus on what you're watching because you're right. It felt like it probably was ahead of its time, especially 2000. Like that's the time Dracula 2000 came out, and it's Y2K. So everybody's like they're trying to find their scream, and it's like, dude,
MTV generation of horror, basically.
right?
Yep.
So I feel like anybody who trashed it before, and I'm talking to all of the people that told me that this movie was trash. Um, go and rewatch it. Like go and rewatch this movie and see what I see. To look at it from a different lens because I've had to do that with several movies. I the Candyman spiritual sequel, because at first I was like, what is this? And then I went back and rewatched it and I was like, oh, this makes sense. And then I also caught all the stuff that I missed because I was just so wrapped up in thinking that this is not the Candyman I know. But neither here nor there. So for ratings and ratings and recommendations, what's your rating for The Cell, and would you recommend people go watch it?
Again, biased, so I'll say 10. 10 out of 10. What I will say though, in giving a note for people, so if you are really not into like Law and Order or the crime procedural types, because like Tarsim moves when people try to shift tones in a movie. That's one of the things that I'm like, this is amazing. When people try to shift tones in a movie, they're not always successful. It's always weird and clunky. But
Yes.
it is, and to give credit too to the editor and the composer, because all of those things, you have to have the director's vision, you have to have the editor's vision, you have to have because they just work so beautifully. So you literally go from I'm watching this procedural to I'm getting more into this, kind of horror, to oh shit, I am in this horror. And then you come back out into, okay, here we're in the procedural. So, I'll be honest, when we're in the procedural portion, we're in the crime stuff, it's not as fun to me. It's not as engaging or interesting. It gets a little boring in the middle. Yeah. But because I'm so hooked on what's going to happen with Catherine and Carl's journey, I'm going to keep watching. Right. So I will say that for people that are just really not into that, the crime stuff, I get it, but just try to pay attention to Catherine and Carl. That's the main thing. You pay attention to Catherine and Carl, you get, find your humanity to get pulled into those characters' stories, and that's going to give you at least a little more of appreciation. You may not come out of it loving it as much as I do, that's fine, but at least you won't think it's trash.
Right.
It might be like, yeah, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was, but it's not my thing, which that's cool too. There's a lot of movies that people like that aren't my thing, but it's just that it's not your thing. So
I would have to say I gave it a 4 out of 5. And the reason why is because, like you said, it's the scenes in between, like when we're not in Carl's mind, when Catherine, when we're talking to the FBI agent, and every once in a while they cut to the girl that's stuck in the glass box, and and it's just like, all right, we got it. We got it. The water's filling up. You just get to the part where it's already filled and she's about to drown. Because I don't want to keep seeing her. I don't want to keep seeing this girl get drenched in water. We got it. We could have moved on from that. But this movie, you give it a 10 out of 10. I say it's not a perfect movie. It's not a perfect movie.
That's why I said
but it's your favorite. So I can see why you give it a 10 out of 10. The visuals are stunning. The performances, J-Lo, I wholeheartedly agree with you. J-Lo is a better actress than she is a singer. Because anything for Selena's, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And her performance makes this movie unforgettable. Mm-hmm. Vincent D'Onofrio's performance makes this movie unforgettable because he is amazing as Carl. I would definitely recommend anybody go. I would recommend y'all go and watch this movie again. If you watched it in the past and you thought it wasn't great, go rewatch it again. Go rewatch it with a new lens, with a new and I think it's because it was J-Lo, because they were like, oh, J-Lo, she's a fly girl, and it's like, and then wait, now I definitely have to see this now. It's because I want to know. I need to know. Okay. So Selena came out in 1997, and y'all was all for J-Lo being Selena. What changed between Selena and the Cell? What changed between Selena and the Cell? Because she's
wearing a bra. That is a bra. Yeah, she's wearing a bra. That's the difference.
That was the difference. Yeah, I recommend it. Y'all recommend y'all go watch The Cell. I had to rent it, but go watch it. It's a cheap rent. So before we wrap up, Tiffany, we're gonna do some quick rapid fire questions for you. It's only 4 of them. And number 1, creepiest dream sequence in any movie outside of The Cell.
I told you about the brain damage I have, right? You know what? Actually, I don't know if you've seen it, but there's a movie with Robert Downey Jr. and Annette Bening called In Dreams. That
I've
whole
heard
fucking
of
movie.
it. That
That
you
whole
said the
movie.
whole movie.
It's basically, you know what? That would be a recommendation if you like The Cell. Watch In Dreams. It's like the nightmare version. It's more of a thriller, but it's the nightmare version of What Dreams May Come. That's the
Wow.
best way I can describe it.
I love What Dreams May Come. I know that ain't horror related.
That's one of my favorite all-time movies too.
Love that. So if
But
you could edit one horror classic just to put your stamp on it, which would you pick?
I don't know if I would, because I would be so intimidated.
Let's just say you're not intimidated. Let's just say like somebody was like, "Hey, we want you to edit this horror classic and digitally remaster it." What would you do? Which horror classic would you do?
Actually, probably the 13 Ghosts remake. Because I feel like that would be a lot of fun. I can only imagine what footage didn't go into it. And that's one of my things that I love about editing, is I get to see the stuff that didn't. That's when you mentioned. I'm glad that you mentioned the life anthologies, which I hope more people check it out. It's on Tubi. But that's what I loved about working on that project, because there was just so much that was not anyway. But yeah, it probably, I'm trying to stay on topic. But yeah, it'd probably be either that or 13 Ghosts. Did I say that? House on Haunted Hill or 13 Ghosts?
You said 13 Ghosts, but we're gonna go with both of them because I was like, I mean, I like House on Haunted Hill. Yeah, y'all gonna hate me for it. I don't care. I like that.
It was good. It was actually it's from that time of those movies, and it was
the 2000s. Yeah. Favorite surreal horror movie?
The Cell.
Besides The Cell.
I don't know. I don't know if I have. Well, because I have a few favorite surreal movies, but I don't know if I have any other surreal horror films that are favorite. If people have recommendations, please send them my way. Holy Mountain is not a horror movie, but that's my other favorite surreal film, and it's surreal for a whole lot of other reasons besides visuals. It's trippy.
Trippy is the word, y'all. When it comes to describing a movie. All right, so Jennifer Lopez, because we love her. Anything for Selena's. Would you want to see her in another horror role? We talking J-Lo now.
This is kind of hard to answer diplomatically. I would say no. She's talented, but I would not. I wouldn't watch her in a horror film today. I wouldn't watch her in any films today.
Not any film.
There would really have to be other reasons for me to do that. I still think she's a talented actress, but I have no interest. I think that's the best way of saying it.
I think I would have to agree with you, because again, we got Selena. She's amazing. We got The Cell, which she's also amazing in. I feel like after she tried to do her music career, that's when her acting took a deep.
I love Enough. That's another one that.
Enough. I love Enough. I love that one too. But yeah, I feel like her acting kind of declined. Over time.
She did that thing a year or so ago that I think was like a long music video biography kind of thing. I don't know what the fuck it was. It was on Prime. I have not seen it. I don't plan on seeing it, even though
I just remember that she was a stripper in some movie, and I was just like,
oh, is it Big Money? No, Hustlers. Something.
Hustlers.
Yeah,
it was her, Lizzo, Cardi B, and I watched 15 minutes and was like, we're good. We're good. Wrap it up. Yeah. We're done. We're done here. See? Look.
Oh, and then she had that romantic comedy phase that I didn't.
Ooh. Yeah, her romantic comedy phase. Ooh, that's a horror movie in itself. Okay. With that being said, Tiffany, thank you so much. I enjoyed this conversation. This was so much fun. Like, you have to come back.
I will.
Tell everybody where they can find you.
So yeah, I got my thing. Hold on.
Yep,
Where's
it's
the
right.
camera?
Yep.
Go find that name on Instagram. Or Goodnight Text Movie. I think I have it. Well, you'll find it on that. That's underneath my name, Theophania Visuals. The reason I direct people to that and to the film that I'm working on developing is because you don't want to follow me on personal. Yeah. Uh, my
I
personal is
enjoy
my
following her on her personal accounts. I want y'all to know that.
my personal is my personal. You never know what you're gonna get. Some days it's gonna be a lot of cat shit and like cat videos and pictures and funny and weird things, and some days it's gonna be I'm going through stuff with my mother. So I genuinely do not recommend following me on. And that's the thing too. If people follow me on my personals and I don't know you, I won't follow you back. But Theophania Visuals or Goodnight Text, I will absolutely follow you back. There's not a lot going on over there right now, but I just joined with the IWC, the Independent Writers Caucus. So there should be some stuff happening here in the next few months. And then so.
Nice. And all of Tiffany's information, except for her personal, because you have it. It's fine. Will be in the description box of this video. Tiffany, again, thank you so much for coming on to the Nightmares. I definitely can't wait to have you on again because now we definitely need to discuss House on Haunted Hill.
Love it. I watched it last night, actually.
That's crazy because I just watched it like 3 days ago. And then I watched that trash sequel and I was like, I wish I never watched this.
When I saw you said you're gonna watch the sequel, you never seen it before. I'm like, ooh, girl, brace yourself.
You know, it's crazy. I started watching it and then I realized I've seen this before and I mind dumped it. And it came
Trauma.
right back.
You mentally blocked it.
Literally trauma. I was just like, this is dumb.
There's a sequel for The Cell. I won't watch it.
I saw it. I'm not watching it. No.
I
learned my lesson from House on Haunted Hill. I learned my lesson.
And it came out around that time. That's why I'm like, I ain't watching it. It's not her theme. I am not watching it. No, thank you.
We are good over here. But with that being said, make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit that little notification bell so you don't ever miss another single nightmare. And as I always say, until next time, boys and ghouls.